Hello, my name is Edward Krikorian, and in this video we are going to be discussing the Addison sequence of operation, starting now. Addison sequence of operation. The example that we're using in our video today is going to be for a unit called the Dedicated Outdoor Air System. In the sequence, you will find information regarding the operation of your unit under different environmental conditions. As we look at the document, you'll see at the top that it's of course named the sequence of operation. Below that, you will see the work order number, which actually is the serial number of your unit. The model number, the tag, who the customer is, the name of the project, the issue date, and who actually approved the sequence of operation. Now below that, you're going to see a line that says equipment, and next to that, you're going to see a brief description of various pieces of equipment that were included in your particular build. Below that, you're going to see a list of the sensors that were included into your build. Now, down below that, you're going to see two barcodes, and these barcodes are used by our engineering department to create the program that runs on the ALC controller that is installed in your unit. So that's what those barcodes are used for. And by the way, Addison only issues a sequence of operation for equipment that has ALC controls in it. Okay, getting started. At the beginning, we have a paragraph called the introduction, where we give a basic overview of the equipment, what type of controller you have, and so on. Below that, we have broken the document down into paragraphs, where the main paragraphs are called the occupied mode and the unoccupied mode, if your unit has that mode of operation. And within those, there are subparagraphs. The ones that we're going to be discussing today are within the occupied mode category. So first of all, let's look at number one, or paragraph one. They talk about an outside air damper. If you look above at the beginning of your sequence where it said equipment, you will see that it is listed there as OD to position. Okay, on this paragraph, they describe how it is supposed to operate. And it states basically that as the unit goes into the occupied mode, the outside air damper will open. As the outside air damper opens, the outside air damper actuator, which is abbreviated OADA, auxiliary switch, closes. That closure is what switches the supply fan on next. If the supply fan turns on and we have proof that it turned on, either through an air-proofing switch or a current sensor, the unit will then begin to analyze data from its various sensors, which could be outside air sensors and supply air sensors, and determine what mode of operation to go into next. On this particular unit that we're using in our example, we have a cooling mode available, a dehumidification mode, and a heating mode. And by the way, the unit does not have any type of unoccupied mode. In the unoccupied mode, the unit is basically shut down. Some units include a mode called night setback, which you would consider the unoccupied mode. So going back up to the top, under the cooling mode paragraph, as an example, the unit begins to analyze the data from its sensors, in this case the OAT, which is your outside air temperature sensor, and decides based on your set point and what it reads on that sensor whether or not to start up the first compressor. In this particular unit, there are two compressors. So the first one starts when the outside air temperature is above the set point. The second scroll, on the other hand, you'll see that SAT is mentioned, and by the way, SAT is the abbreviation for supply air temperature. You'll see that term used a lot in our documents. Anyways, it begins to look at the supply air temperature, which is, of course, the temperature of the airstream. And it looks for the set point of that, which is 70 degrees, and looks at the actual temperature, and that's when it makes the decision as to whether or not to start the second scroll. Okay, going further down, we go into details about the digital scroll, if you have one, how it modulates. And then we talk about hot gas reheat, which is the feature where we heat up the airstream before it goes into the space. Being an outside air unit, we do that on this unit, and we call that hot gas reheat, and its set point is 70 degrees Fahrenheit, as you can see there in that paragraph. Now, another mode that's available is dehumidification, and you'll see that documented here. And they talk about the outside air temperature having to meet a certain criteria limit of 60 degrees. And then what they're analyzing is the outside air dew point, and they're looking at the supply air dew point. And obviously there's a set point for that, and when the criteria is met, the unit will enter into the dehumidification mode. And within that paragraph, you'll see a description of how the unit basically changes perhaps its modulation of the scroll when it's in that mode, and possibly changes the supply air temperature while it's in that mode. And finally, at the bottom here, we have the heating mode. And again, that's basically very simple. We're looking at the outside air temperature, comparing it with a set point, which in this case is 55 degrees. And then the unit will switch into heating when that criteria is met. And then while it is running, it will output an airstream at the temperature of 70 degrees Fahrenheit. Now, going below all these paragraphs, we have a couple of paragraphs that I'd like to point out to you. We have one called safety switches. This describes various safety switches we've installed in your unit. Below that, we talk about what can create a safety shutdown. And below that, we have startup settings, controls, and options. And we talk about standard alarms. And we have a listing basically of all your alarms. And then finally, at the bottom of this particular sequence, we have a document called the set point matrix. Now, this is very useful for controls contractors because it basically describes what your control points are and your set points and so on. So they'll be able to use this to integrate properly into your unit. Thank you very much for watching the video.